Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Brahmanandam Param Sukhadam Kevalam Jnana Murtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasya Laksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Om. Adorations to Sadguru, who is Brahman, the giver of supreme bliss, embodiment of pure consciousness, one without a second, vast as the ether, infinite, eternal, beyond the three gunas and their modifications, the supreme preceptor. Yoga Vasistha, Stithi Prakarana, section 43. Sage Vasishtha continues to give insight into Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Brahman alone is real. He has nothing else to say. Sri Vasishtha continued, O Rama, millions upon millions of countless souls proceed from the self through the magical power of ignorance. It doesn't require much difficult understanding. Think of millions upon millions of reflected suns proceed out of the sun. But really it doesn't happen that way. They're all reflections. But if you are in the reflected world, it is not a reflection. You can see a jar with the sun shining in it. It's a totally different experience. And then if you could start imagining the predicament of the shining sun within the jar, it has a whole story to tell. Every moment something is happening within the jar. And then from a jar standpoint, raising your head a little out of the jar, you are jarred by the vast universe. And all this is immense. And then come down to the reality, all this is illusion. The sun is just the same, eternal, immutable. That's the story of every soul in every individual. Your reflected sun, deflected through your nervous system. And every soul is trapped in Bhava Chakra, the wheel of the world system. And to understand the simple allegorical teaching, it's like a wheel with spokes. There are 6 spokes, and there is axle of the wheel. Axle is the ego. Ego that doesn't have its reality. But that's another stage to think about. But ego is the axle. Led by ego awareness, soul performs virtuous karmas, virtue. As a result of virtue, pleasure. As a result of pleasure, attachment, raga. So virtue, pleasure, and attachment. Turn to the other side. You are led to do vicious karma, vice, not virtue. Vice gives you wrong advice. By your negative karma, the result of vice is pain. And pain settles itself by creating in your mind hatred. So virtue, pleasure, raga, attachment. Vice, pain, hatred. All these six goes on round and round. They never stop. And what controls it, secures it, is ego, the axle. And which are Vedantic movement is to understand that ego is illusion. You are not trapped in this. It is your ego. Ego is not a reality of yours. It's a projection. So moving away from ego awareness to I am awareness. That's the process of enlightenment. Therefore, Vedantic question, who am I? That must enter the mind, not in a sentimental way, but through a mind that is highly advanced, serene, and then the real curiosity, who am I? If you don't have that state, then your question, who am I, is already answered. Each time you ask the question, your unconscious realize, you miserable one. Don't believe in Vedanta. Countless souls have emanated through ignorance. Some have attained liberation and will not be born anymore. Out of countless souls, some attain liberation. And that's all the time. That's not you don't have to wait for a particular yoga. That's another childish story. Some continue to be born in the same class or species. Some souls have their special type of karma. So, led by your karma, you born in human embodiment. Some have mixed karma in a strange way, that in one embodiment, soul is human being. Next embodiment, the soul becomes an animal, a deer, deer. Next embodiment becomes a saint. There are many stories of similar nature. So karma creates this strange phenomenon. Some experience severe sufferings in their lives and have very little happiness. Vipatti-grast jivan, life filled with adversity. But adversity that is not giving you any lesson. This is tamasic state, the worst state. It's the life of a hell. While others experience immense joy. Then there are others whose life is filled with a story of prosperity. Even though their whole personality shines with vanity. But to them, it's a story of prosperity. Ravana, Kansa, and they're always that type of egoistic people who count their prosperity on the basis of how much money they have gained, how much their near and dear ones are flourishing. And the new grandson is coming. Nothing against that, but I'm giving a different understanding. Some arise from the sun, while others proceed from the moon. Now this points to Suryavanshi, story of Rama, etc. Chandravanshi, story of Krishna. What does it imply? Think of the northern path, Uttarayana, soul that is moving to enlightenment. Allegorically follows a mystic process, which Gita calls it Uttarayana, like a sun adopting the northern path, where daytime goes on increasing. But forget about the daytime. The whole Uttarayana refers to first step, Agni. You are not cold and miserable state, but the fire in you begin to understand that you live to transcend the world. The world cannot fulfill you. In other words, in simple words, vairagya develops. Mature vairagya. A simple understanding that the world is not real as it appears. And therefore you cannot count upon a stability in any condition you attain in the world. You may be stable for 5 years, maybe even 6 years, maybe more or less, but you don't have stability here. Even the very Earth planet is not stable. Fortunately, it doesn't tell you all its problems. Otherwise, you lie on your bed supported by the earth, which has countless problems. If it were to start, the earth goddess were to start telling you all that, you will have a hard time to listen to it. So, fire means you develop that spirit. Since this world is not real, what is the reality? Let me spend some time, let me use human embodiment and resources to understand and to discover that fire movement starts. Agni Jyoti. The Vairagya leads you to Vivek. Now your mind is more alert, which is purposeful and what is just vain. Preya and Shreya. what seems pleasant, but it is not substantial. It is simply leading you to the whirlpool. And what is that which is taking you out of the wheel? And that type of spirit enters, it's like a light. And then the third stage, when Viveka and Vairagya begin to operate in your life, speaking from a broad point of view, integral yoga enters your life. Your life is aha. No matter what situation, no matter what event, there is an adventure for the soul. The mountain climber, even if he falls down and sometimes injures his nose, he knows that it is just a little test. He doesn't lose his courage. So when you have come to that level of understanding that everyday life has a spiritual interest. It may not be interesting for the ego, but it has a spiritual purpose. And since you view yourself little detached from your ego, your ego presented view of the world, you can see it as a witness, just like you see a dark cloud. But you are not drowned by it, affected by it. So all this is called Surya Vansha, the path proceeding from the line of the sun. And then another level comes in that called Surya Vansha, Chandra Vansha. Now after this, allegorically, Agni Jyotiha Shuklam, Shuklam, Shukla Paksh, as if moon has waxed, is waxing in the firmament of your heart. A divine feeling. Human feeling is so messed up. But if you have gone through these stages, Agni, Jyoti, that feeling becomes profound. Your love is not limited to simply a circle of near and dear ones. Your love is boundless, as if you have landed yourself on the moon and showering lunar grace, nectarine rays of the moon, holy hai. Spraying that joyous goodwill, may all be happy. Sarve bhavantu sukhina. That movement was represented by Krishna, Chandravanshi. So, souls that are highly advanced, they are following this solar movement, lunar movement, leading to the highest goal. This is for the highest type of souls. But those who are not in that state of adopting krama mukti, gradual liberation, now they go in wild directions, you don't know where. Some exist as celestial beings, while others as denizens of hell. Some are born as Brahmanas, others Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras. So many variations of people in this world. Some have taken their embodiment in the form of snakes. worms, ants, spiders. Take it both ways, literally as well as allegorically. Both ways is correct. And there are others who have taken embodiments of lions and buffaloes and goats and deer and cows and rabbits. Take it literally. All souls. Every little creature is a soul operating through a body presented by the Creator. Think of even a little butterfly. How much it is involved in the creation of butterfly. And what artistry and insight and knowledge is needed to make a little brain which can work through the little mechanism of the body. Think of the spider. What wonderful net spider creates without going through schools and colleges. Without holding various instruments to measure the circumference. All in such simple way. And you don't have to go far and wide. How much your every finger does, creating the nails, nail problems, and so forth. And of course, your own body is a vast world. A world where the Kurukshetra is there, and big war is going on. Army of millions of bacteria attack another set of bacteria, millions of them. And adopt politics. All these are souls. Some souls abide in the stars. Some have their residence in drifting sands. Some abide in the rays of the sun. You can take it literally, or you can take it allegorically. Allegorically means if you are full of sentiments, you abide in the stars. If your feeling is constantly shaky, you are lunatic. You abide in the moon. Moon is your attic. And take it literally, the rays of the sun. And imagine so many viruses, microbes, and germ cells, countless. And what happens when the rays go after? Boundless story to tell. And it goes on happening every day. You do not believe in it, ask your nose. Some are endowed with sharp and subtle intellect, while there are others who are dull in mind. Some are engaged in teaching the path of wisdom, while others have taken recourse to profound samadhi. At all different levels of souls. Whipped by death, these souls continue to rise and fall through numerous embodiments. They are like birds caught in the net of vasanas. Vasanas are subtle desires. Those subtle desires of your subconscious condition the soul in such a way that soul goes on, moving from one embodiment to another, led by those vasanas, until you reach the state of dagdha vasana, when vasana is destroyed. Then soul attains liberation. But until then, vasana guides continue to compel the soul to enter into repeated embodiments. But in some souls, the vasanas have become highly purified, Shubha Vasana, by the practice of integral yoga in their life. Being endowed with subtle intellect, when vasanas have become purified, when buddhi, intellect, undergoes a transfiguration, it becomes intuitive. That intuitive insight begins to guide your intellect. Your intellect does not stay intellectual. Intellect becomes intuitional. And if that happens, going through the cycle of birth and death, that's no longer soul's choice. Soul discards that. The only choice for the soul, 7 steps of wisdom. The ladder of wisdom. And just to remind you, 7 steps, Shubhecha, aspiration for God realization. First step. Details will be given to you again and again. Next one, reflection. If aspiration begins to develop and you are making that aspiration a strong rung for your spiritual support, then reflection becomes a powerful hobby of yours, allowing your mind to understand, who am I? Otherwise, your mind is just trying to understand how tasty that food is. Who cooked it? Where can I find it? I'm joking, but simple way to explain the point. The intellect is very foxy, always wants to know something going on. If nothing going on here, at least what's going on in politics? Open up your iPad or TV or whatever. And there are lots of news. If that doesn't satisfy, find some relative, call him. You are in Alaska. Oh, have you seen a bear today? I'm joking. So ascending the ladder, just reminding you, aspiration, reflection, called vicharana. Third is called tanu manasi. Mind in human being is obese. Every movement is very heavy, blunt, and you never know. The toes get damaged, the knee gets damaged, and many things go on happening. So that's the mind that creates all the problem in human life. But when checklist vasanas. Vasanas that are based upon ignorance, egoism, attachment, hatred, fear of death. If you don't remember all the five, remember only raga and dvesha. Attachment and hatred. If these two have become thinned out, now your mind has a tremendous room for serenity. So much so that even while to the others may seem you are surrounded by trouble, to you it isn't. That state is called Tanu Manasi. But in Tanu Manasi state, attachment and hatred are not rooted out. They are thinned out. Thinned out state is just like putting a very gross way, putting a poisonous snake in a refrigerator. Now it behaves like a rope. And you can play with it. But the moment you forget and you start giving milk to that snake, it will start hissing. So you never know. You have to be always careful, if you are in Tanu Manasi state, not to become too satisfied. Go on working for it until you find the root. Fourth step is called Tattvapatti. That's the enlightened state. Mind has become enlightened. Your soul now will never fall back. A security has come of never going backward. Once that security has come, that's called enlightenment. Now enlightened one will go through higher levels of enlightened experience. Those stages follow now after fourth, fifth state. The world is now for the enlightened one is very similar to what happens a person is dreaming. And during dream, no matter what situation is there in the dream, you have come to realize it is a dream. Sometimes it happens, very rarely, but it does happen. When that happens, you see yourself climbing a ladder and breaking your leg. And you are not upset because you see the dream. So that state develops. You see your own personality aging, facing various challenges of the world, and yet internally, inwardly, untouched. That's called Asam Sakti. In this state, you can handle so many things, but you do not create attachment or hatred. If you don't have this state, you handle anything and your hand needs to be washed well. Your hand gets touched by it. And after Asam Sakti, which is like a dream state, dream in a positive way. Next stage comes Padartha Bhavana. Padartha Bhavana, the whole world is made up of Padarth, matter. Matter emanating from Brahman. This entire world of matter doesn't matter. Matter becomes myths. Matter has disappeared. And then, seventh step, Turiya. Turiya means transcendental. Now there is no description. Up till sixth state you are describing. Waking, dream, deep sleep. Seventh, go beyond all descriptions. Because the highest state cannot come within the mental range. Like the rays of the sun, or sparks proceeding from the red-hot iron, or fragrance from flowers, or raindrops from clouds, or like waves in the ocean. All jivas continue to proceed from Brahman. Souls proceeding from Brahman are as spontaneous as waves in the ocean, rays coming from the sun, fragrance emanating from the flowers, or raindrops coming in shower. Section 44. Sri Rama asked, O sage, please explain how this jiva that is endowed with a mental process can rise to the absolute sublime state of Brahma or Brahman the Absolute. Sri Vasishtha explained, O Rama, the mind that is bent upon externalization first projects the elements of ether, air, etc. Let me simplify this. What Vasishtha is saying, that led by mind, the soul becomes associated, identified with physical body, 5 sheaths. 5 sheaths, first sheath is your physical body. The second layer within you is the vital pranas. Third layer is your mind and senses, manomaya. Fourth layer is your vijnanmaya, intellect and ego. Fifth layer is your unconscious. Soul becomes associated with all these 5 layers. Associated in such a way, just like a person has put on these clothes. And clothes have become so important, the person forgets who he is. This is all described as externalization. The soul is the only internalized reality. These are all outward, in the realm of Maya. And the same 5 sheaths are described in 3 bodies. Physical body, Annamaya Kosha. 3 layers are put together as the middle section within your personality called subtle body. And that's Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha. Nothing kosha about it. And 5th is Anandamaya Kosha, the unconscious. That's the 3rd. So same 5 grouped in 3. So we call 3 bodies and 5 sheaths. All this is completely layers of Maya. They are not realities. It is the same mind that enables the soul to become identified with cosmic subtle body called Hiranyagarbha. Same mind that led by ignorance, avidya, that has created for the soul this illusion, I am the body, I am the mind, I am the intellect. The same mind, led by vidya, led by knowledge, in other words, allow that mind to be subjected to yoga sadhana, practice of sadhana. Now the same mind will allow the soul to get out of all these illusions and realize I am Satchidananda, Aham Brahmasmi. Same mind that repeats the mantra, I am miserable, I'm miserable. The same mind enjoys the revelation, I am Brahman, I am Brahman. Led by ignorance, the very same mind which is capable of rising to the glory of Brahman descends into the state of miserable souls wandering through the dark night of ignorance. It is Brahman who entered into the state of jivahood and experienced numerous embodiments. That's the essence of all this. It is Brahman, every soul is Brahman. But entering into the world of Maya led by ignorance, every soul goes through countless embodiments. It is with the help of scriptural vision the soul discovers its identity as Brahman, the absolute self, and becomes free from the cycle of birth and death. This is further elaborated in section 45. More insight into the world process. The Vasishtha continued, O Rama, though apparently real, this world is illusory. This point has to be hammered and understood. People become highly intellectual and very progressive, but this eludes their mental grasp. You are living in a very brittle world. From a very common sense point of view, the entire world is stuck in your little brain. One little coconut falling on your head will make you a nut forever. That's the whole world, operating through a little nervous system. How can you really expect permanency operating through a little brain? It is common sense that you can't stay with the brain or even with your body. All have to fade away. But should your life be just that much to make the brain happy? Or should you not do something to understand beyond the realm of nervous system? So the idea the world is appearance is not something very difficult to understand. From any angle, the world you are experiencing is based upon your senses. But your senses are not the only senses in the world. Every animal has their senses. And the way they experience, that's totally different, depends upon your senses. Even human beings, though there is a practical reality, all human beings recognize 1 inch is a 1 inch. 2 plus 2 is 4. All human beings recognize. But no two human beings have exact experience. That you have to figure out. But that subtle difference doesn't matter when you deal with human beings. Nevertheless, the difference exists. No two thumbprints are exactly the same. No two persons are exactly alike. People may find some strange phenomenon. People look very alike, but not exactly alike. Though apparently real, this world is illusory. Just as objects reflected in a mirror do not exist in reality. Let me give you again. The dog in the barber shop. What is the reality in the world? A dog enters into old-style barber shop where mirrors are arranged in such a way, parallel. And suddenly a dog enters the barber shop with a great sense of victory. And looks into one mirror, finds there is another dog already there. Then starts growling, and in that way turns a little this way. The mirror behind is also there is a dog. Sharpens his eyes. Now there is another mirror behind that also has a dog. Well, one dog was enough to agitate the dog, but now the dog finds it has landed into a place where there are thousands of dogs all over. Oh my God. Terror beyond imagination. Cure for the terror, I alone have. All dogs you are seeing are your reflections. Multiplicity is your mind creating the illusion. So, instead of having dogly vision, have godly vision. Mind being all powerful has projected the body, but due to ignorance now considers itself dependent upon the body. See, generally human idea is there, where is mind? Within my body. It's the other way around. The body is being experienced by your mind. Just as the destruction of a city that has been created by mental imagination is not a real destruction. We're talking about building castles in the air. Some people are very great technicians. They create big castles, castles after castles. But all those castles suddenly are demolished. Nothing really has happened. You didn't build with reality. Whatever you built was illusion, and it breaks. And you accept it as illusion. It becomes a sport when you build castles in the air and enjoy your life. And see the castles broken, it doesn't hurt you. Try to understand, same applies to every experience in this world. All the things that create so much sense of greatness, because of money, because of palace, because of power, because of so many possessions. And then a hurricane comes and most of those things are wiped away. And it creates such a tremendous shock and terror. But bring your mind to that level to understand that all that has happened is castles in the air have been blown away. So, your real personality should not be shaken. The reality in you, the real I am, that if your attention is towards the real I am, then allow yourself to entertain shama, serenity. And it is serenity that should give you a sense of victory in life. You are living a real life. If you are living a life shaken with each situation, then you are going through defeats after defeats. Prasannatam yanagata abhishekata. That's what Lord Rama presents the ideal. The storyline of Lord Rama, he is being given the whole kingdom. A rejoicing in which all Ayodhya is going to praise him, and they are already dancing with great celebration. In that high state of rejoicing, Rama is given Banvas, go to forest, no more this kingdom. And his face remains serene. He had nothing to gain by the kingdom or nothing to lose when kingdom has been taken up. It seems like a big story. But it belongs, that state is a reality in every individual. Every day you do that. When you go to sleep, you don't even know how you look. And you have nothing to do with what things you belong, what doesn't belong, what is going on in the world. Nothing. Learn lesson from it. That's your deeper level. Bring that state as your deeper, enduring I am. And then see, bringing that is a progressive movement. You don't suddenly bring it, but as you go on doing your japa, etc., as you begin to face your challenges with patience, not with despair, and as you learn to repair your weaknesses, then gradually you begin to have that real sniff of spiritual revelation of I am, the revelation of God. And once that revelation becomes secure, then life may go on having the same experiences outwardly. That's like sky will go on having clouds of all types. But the sky-like awareness becomes your permanent feature. I'm quickly saying it, but it's a progressive movement. That's your goal. That's self-realization. that's liberation. But as long as you are shaken by the world constantly, that's not liberation. There you have a challenge. Your goal is to attain enlightenment. If an illusory object proves itself to be illusory, there's no need to be affected by it. That's the moral of the story. That's how Gita starts. Ashocyananva shochastvam. O Arjuna, are grieving over things not worth grieving for. Sun rose and the sky was so beautiful, but suddenly a ugly wind moves the cloud away. You start grieving. What happened? I'm joking. Nothing happened. Sun is the same. Allowing the mind to see the world around you in that type of attitude, that's not easy, but that is the goal of life. In all religions, that's the state to be reached. Therefore, Gita begins with that, Ashocyananva shochastam. O Arjuna, are grieving over things not worth grieving for. And after 18 chapter of all teachings, Krishna concludes, Ma shucha. Therefore, do not grieve. Resolving the problem of grief, that's in brief the essence of all scriptures. And that should be brief. With this week. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.